invite Councillor Maxwell and also Councillor Waru to lead us in our waiata, which is He Honore. So we do have the words available up on the screen and for councillors in front of you as well. So over to you guys.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kia ora koutou katoa. He inoi tātou, let us pray. E te atua whakatūwheratia mai kia mātou ngā kuaha o te tika, o te pono, te māramatanga i tēnei wānga wakatoa. Ko ihu karaiti hoki tō mātou kai whakaora. Āmene. Amen. And now we're going to do He Honore, thinking of our tuahine Gina. He honore, he gloria, manarongo ki te whenua. Whakaro, mahie, ki ngā tangata katoa. Ake ake, amine. Te atua, te pirina, tōku oranga. He honore, he gloria, manarongo ki te whenua. Whakaro, mahie, ki ngā tangata katoa. Ake ake, amine. Te atua, te pirina, tōku oranga. Tōku oranga. Tōku oranga. Mā te atua koutou e manaki, kia rongo tātou katoa. Kia rongo.
Kia ora, and thank you very much for that lovely start to our council meeting. And we also acknowledge that this is the final council meeting of Gina Rangi, who we are very fortunate to hold the position of Interim Chief Executive. We wish you all the best as you go into the Ministry for Environment as a Deputy Secretary. They are incredibly lucky to have you. So we will move formally into our council meeting today. Just a reminder that this is being live streamed, so please make sure that your phones are on silent. We will take a short morning break around 11 a.m. I'd like to first of all start with any apologies. We do have an apology for lateness from Councillor Patterson. He will be here very shortly. There appear to be no others. That's moved by Councillor Kaifong, seconded by Councillor Kiriopa. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any declarations of interest this morning? There appear to be none. Any urgent items not on the agenda? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, welcome back. Nice to have you back. Could I ask that we raise the issue around, please, the news of the application or the intention to apply for a renewal of the resource consent for the consented hotels, please?
Thank you. Would you like to raise that as an urgent item now?
Yes, please, with your permission, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm happy to receive a brief update on that, given, of course, it was significant public interest. As I understand, the application has not yet been received. However, as I have mentioned in media statements, it was certainly a surprise to us that Minister of Housing and Urban Development wished to do that. I have sent a letter, I have sent a request to meet with Minister and also local electorate MP Todd McClay, which we will do tomorrow regarding this, even though it's Anzac Day, but of urgent nature. And also I am resending a letter to Ministers Chris Bishop and Ministers Tama Portaka regarding emergency housing in this consent. So I hope to have some clarity from the ministers about this soon too, because it certainly does not align with the strong direction that not only this community but also this council has given to end those emergency housing motels. But I'll like to invite the Chief Executive if there's anything in addition that we can add from an organisation perspective.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only thing to add is to confirm that we haven't received an application. All we have heard is being copied in the same email that was sent out to stakeholders as the start of what we believe their public consultation will be. We also understand their intention is to publicly notify this consent, so everyone will have, the public will have the opportunity to participate in that process. Again, this is as far as we know. We haven't had a consent application lodged with us. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask a couple of questions, Your Worship? Thank you. So could I ask the Chief Executive, assuming that we do receive, and they have made it clear that they will be at some point, what will be the process once that application is received?
Councillor, this it's a speculation based on what we might reasonably expect. So we might expect that they apply for a publicly notified consent. We have a regulatory function that is obliged to process that consent, which we will do as required by law. Council also has a community shaping and advocacy function, which might take a different view and which will be more aligned, as the Mayor has indicated, with the wishes of the community that have been expressed through us over various different forums over the last couple of years.
Thank you. So sorry, because I've seen comments in public, there seems to be some confusion. So could you explain, if we do receive an application, either way, however it's notified, what will be the process? Because there's a lot of people saying we need council to stand up. So could you advise what will be the process where council's involved and where we're not involved? Thank you.
Thank you. I might defer now then
Thank you, Your Worship.
General Manager of Community and District Development.
Good morning, everyone. When we receive an application, the staff make an assessment as to the potential time frame of an application. Now, historically, we've been here before. As the Chief Executive signalled, what we've seen in the email to date is an undertaking by HUD in making those applications that they would request public notification. So that makes it quite easy for us then to start saying we've now got some applications that have been received. As we did last time, we would probably seek to appoint an external consultant to prepare what is the officer's report. So it's technically called an officer's report. So we would use an external consultant to prepare that. In reading those applications, they may have to also add in some additional expert material to that report. Potentially that's social impact assessment and economic impact assessment, or request further information. So that's the normal processing pathway. We would also, in parallel, because they have requested or are likely to request public notification, we would be looking to start trying to book some independent commissioners who would obviously then process that application. So that's the normal undertakings we would do in this process.
Thank you. So could I follow up and ask, so what's the time frame on this? What's to stop us preparing, once we receive the application, immediately from scheduling the panel to start hearing?
Councillor, that's certainly the undertaking I would expect us to do, is to move as quickly as possible. So we would want to, once we had those applications, confirm that we can secure a suitably qualified set of commissioners to hear those applications. So that would give us a chance to immediately book them in, and then potentially also line up the time frame for, obviously if it's a notification, the submission period, the required time to process those submissions and prepare for a hearing. So certainly very quickly after we had received those applications of whatever scale they are, and depending on if any further information was required, it would be quite possible for us to schedule very clearly a time frame across the next 6 months to process those.
So sorry, when we say that, so sorry, would it be possible to put a time frame, not too precise, but to say once we've received the application to look within 2-3 months for hearings?
I think, Councillor O'Brien, the urgency of me wishing to meet with the ministers is they have not yet taken that action. Staff from Ministry of Housing and Urban Development were the ones who contacted, and I wish to have a discussion with the ministers regarding the appropriateness of them taking that action of reapplying for 2 years. So I would advise that following those conversations we may have a better understanding of what they intend to do.
Okay, I take that on board, Your Worship. I just wish to make the point that I hope the 6 months that they have once they file just to continue isn't used as a delay tactic to just try and drag this out for as long as possible for their own benefit. Could I just ask on this, since I brought it up, who's actually responsible at the end of the day for compliance with the resource consent, the current one at this time?
That's a function undertaken by my team. So Jason Ward is our Manager of Integrated Planning and Development. So his team are the ones that are undertaking the regular compliance checks with those resource consent conditions, and also receiving the quarterly reports from Ministry of Housing and Urban Development on activity in those facilities.
Thank you. So could I ask, with the numbers of it that we've had in emergency housing provided to us on the dashboard, how is it clearly the amount of housing wasn't even close to the amount needed? So in what work have we undertaken over the last few months to ensure that they were in a position to close in December when they originally, and which we as a council have talked about certainly for the last 6 to 8 months?
Councillor O'Brien, I think we're going past the point of the urgent item, and we do have our Community and District Development Committee coming up in a few weeks, of which part of the progress report, these are updates. So what I suggest is we've taken the urgent item of the application for, well, the notification they intend to apply for the 2 years, and I think that we can leave further discussions until the appropriate committee.
I take on board you as your chair, and of course I'll respect that. I would just say that over the years when we've left discussion through, we've been taken to the cleaners by these agencies, which is KO, MHUD, MSD and MB. And every single time they've walked out the winners. They've taken us for fools and we've acted like it. I'm somewhat reminded...
Councillor O'Brien, I think we'll stop that there, thank you. There has no doubt been significant progress. I'm very pleased that we have reduced emergency hotels by 60%. I appreciate there's still work to do, but we'll continue to do that with urgency. So we'll move on.
I think
now.
your idea of urgency and mine probably are different, but thank you anyway, Your Worship.
I've been very lenient to you this morning, Councillor O'Brien. I hope that you appreciate being able to have your say on this matter. Were there any other urgent items? There appear to be none. So we will take confirmation of our minutes of our previous meeting, and then we will get to our public petitions. So we're on page 7 of our agenda. May I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the council meeting on the 27th of March be confirmed as true and correct. That's moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Kai Fong, and you have a question on that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just looking at page 9, it says, resolved that the long-term plan 2024 adoption of consultation document be received. I recall that 3 or maybe 4 of us voted against that, and our votes are not recorded.
Did you ask
Yes.
for a division at the time?
we all put our hands up and I said, please record my vote.
Okay. We will get staff to check that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other matters to be raised? Nope. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll read that again, that the minutes of the council meeting held on 27th of March 2024 be confirmed as true and correct record. All those in favour, please.
Sorry, Your Worship, sorry. With the amendment once it's checked?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. And also the minutes of the council extraordinary meeting held on the 2nd of April. That's on page 12 to 15. May I please have a mover and a seconder? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any corrections to these minutes? Nope, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. So we'd now like to move to our petitions. We have two this morning. First of all, we're going to take our petition regarding the Mamaku Hall, and then secondly, we will take the petition regarding the Lakeland Queen. So just for those who will be presenting, we have the presenter table up here. You're welcome to come up to there. Please make sure that you push the button on the microphone so that we can all hear you and the live stream can hear you. And just a reminder that you have 5 minutes to present, and that is including questions as well. So within the 5 minutes, if you wish to have time for questions, please consider that. I will just give you a little prompt when you have 1 minute left. So I'd like to welcome, first of all,
Point
Rachel.
of order.
Yes?
I understand the standing orders give 5 minutes for petition presentation plus 5 minutes. I don't have the standing orders in front of me, but
Okay, thank you. 5 minutes for the presentation, and then we can take some questions after that.
thank you.
So I'd like to welcome Rachel Matthews, who is the chair, and also Rosie Tikani from the Mamaku Residents Association to speak to their petition and to speak to their petition. Thank you.
Kia ora everybody, my name is Rosie Tikani. I have been a resident of Mamaku for 44 years now, and I have a lot of memories of the Mamaku, which was a thriving community. I stand here today to present this petition to have the Mamaku War Memorial Hall fixed. I represent the past and present community who built this hall, in memory of our soldiers that died in World War I and II. This hall has been used for 71 years. It is full of happy and sad memories, and has always been a place for local community to use for whatever purpose. There's been birthdays, tangis, Anzac days, play centres, dances, youth centre, etc. If I had time to put this petition online, the amount of signatures would have doubled. We have already had nearly 300. Mamaku has a historian and a Mamaku How It Was page, which I suggest you read, and you will see the support for fixing it. The new hall committee, formed about 6 years ago now, met with Eric from the council to fix the things that previous committees didn't do. The hire charges were changed and the council built a wheelchair access. The new committee fundraised for things for the hall, tables, chairs, dishes, new curtains, fridges, etc. A maintenance report has not been done for 10 years. They were informed that there was $200,000 for community halls, and it is clear the council have not mentioned it for years, maintained it for years. When asked, they don't know where the money went. Mamaku is a community that will do everything we can to save our hall. We have had people volunteer to fix, builders, electricians, plumbers, roofers, painters, and even materials provided and donated. That how much it means to the past and present. The council recently held a meeting to discuss the LTP, which was held in our fire station, which is too small and only accommodates 60 people. People were outside to have a say. In the plan, there is no mention of the rural communities getting anything. It is again all about Rotorua, but we still get a 10% rate rise. We have heard that Rotorua has a huge debt, and if we want to be added, the rate rises will continue. The other answer is, I can't predict. No doubt other rural communities will have the same opinion. We as a community know that it will cost money to fix the hall, but we also know it's also been inspected at the cost of $12,000 plus. And if we have inquired to how much it would be to be demolished, which comes between 70 and 120,000, why could this money not be spent on fixing it instead? Again, this mismanagement from council concerning their assets and funds. The conclusion of this is that the community will continue to fight for our War Memorial Hall to remain open, fixed and not demolished. Thank you.
Morena, my name is Rachel Bidwa and I represent the Mamaku Residents Association and also the Mamaku community. I would like to focus on the War Memorial aspect of both our hall and Reparos. We are the only two halls that are war memorials and therefore that carries more weight than being just a community hall. I am also a returned serviceman and wear my service medal today with pride. Cecil Hemmings donated the land for our current hall after his father, Roy Cecil Hemmings, was killed in action in 1942 and therefore made our hall a war memorial. We have a substantial list of Mamaku residents who gave their lives for our country and are named on our roll of honour. I would like to read some excerpts from a letter that I have from Mark Compain, who is chairman of the New Zealand RSA National Remembrance Committee. The role of war memorials. War memorials provide a salutary reminder and warning to nations and communities of the cost of conflict, as well as the very real sacrifices made by the local community. They also represent the echoes of trauma across successive generations that persist to this day, which keep veteran support organisations like the RSA daily struggling to meet support needs of those impacted by military service, including whānau families. However, it is an unfortunate but understandable human tendency to attribute less and less meaning to events the further away they become from first-hand experience. Since the 1960s, this has become the norm as New Zealand moved away from the mass mobilisation of its citizens to the reliance on small professional armed forces. As a community, we must be careful not to let the tyranny of distance tempt us to overlook the role of our memorials and our responsibility to preserve this reminder as the inheritors of hard-won peace. The economic reason to act. Under financial
30
pressure...
seconds.
Sorry?
30 seconds, but please
Thank
carry
you.
on.
Under financial pressure, it is understandable to look for immediate efficiencies, and memorial halls in remote locations are an attractive option. In this case, we would ask local authorities to please consider the longer-term economic reasons to preserve them, which include a resource for dispersed communities to come together for social, cultural, education or recreational purposes, which is honouring their original purpose. To provide a prominent focal point and reminder of the meaning of service and responsibilities for citizenship to each other and our communities. This is particularly relevant in an era of increased individualism and growing demand on central government support. A tangible, visible acknowledgement to those that still suffer that their service is valued and that the community is there to support them. In summary, utilitarian war memorials provide much more than a place to remember long ago events of which we have no direct experience. They perpetuate the responsibilities of citizenship, the meaning of community and service on behalf of others. They represent the very best ideals of those who gave their lives or lost their health through military service. As such, they are a valuable community asset beyond four walls and a door. Thank you. Ngā mihi nui.
Thank you very much, Rachel Bidwa, and also Rosie Tikani. Are you happy to answer a few questions if there are any?
Absolutely.
Are any questions? We'll just take a few, please. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation, ladies. Congratulations on your recent nuptials, Rachel. Tell me, the community obviously in behind it, and it's really good to hear all of those people offering your support, or offering to support this. Do I understand that the community have done their own reports, or they've got employed a builder to do a report on this? And if so, what does that report say?
So council have done 2 reports and we did get a local to do a report as well. Thomas has all 3 of those and we are working through that. They are done on different perspectives. The first one was done, excuse me for being blunt, but it was done through cutting a hole in our floor and using whatever equipment that you can to probe through a hole in the floor, whereas our chap actually went underneath. Plenty, ample room, he is a big guy. The words that I heard from this meeting after our board meeting was that was too awkward to do. Brad's a big guy. He got under there for 2 hours. It's all good. So there is a range. There is a range of opinion about the condition of the hall, and we just need to work through those and figure out which option is more correct than others and what we can do to remedy.
So what's the range?
We'll take a question from Councillor O'Brien now.
Your Worship, through you, thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you, Rosie, and supporters here today. I've heard your impassioned pleas about the memorial side of the hall. Could I ask you about the argument that says, well, the school hall is suitably close to the community hall, quite a large size, certainly comparable, if not slightly bigger. So what would you say to that argument that, hey, there is another venue available to Mamaku residents? Thank you.
I will answer that as I am on the school home and school. We have offered things to happen at our hall, but when there are birthdays, we don't allow alcohol in the school whatsoever. Most of the meetings clash with the school times, or them providing it for that. So there is very limited what we can use for our school. Yes, we are there for civil defence, but that's a way different ball of fish then. We cannot hold a tangi there because the children will be at school. We can't have Pilates casters, we can't have the old people's dinners because they all happen during the day. So this is not possible, and I don't think it will be at all anyway for future either. Okay, thank you. And
the school has ruling about how they take their bookings, which is through their board. So there's no, like, for example, where the MRA is actually wanting to get some kind of meeting together for the locals to express what they want in the LTP. And we had far too large a group in the fire station, which poses issues if there's actually a fire call out. And just to, off the bat, just say, hey, we want to call a hui, let's go to the school hall, won't happen. Can't happen. It's just not how it rolls.
Thank you. And final question from Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentation. And I appreciate what you're going through because I've been on for over 20 years on the Nongataha Hall Committee. The question I have is regarding, you mentioned about to demolish it would cost 200K. Can I ask who assessed this?
it was actually a guy that does demolition from Hamilton. He came and had a quick look and said, it's asbestos in it. The whole outside of our hall is cladded in asbestos, but if we keep it painted, it will not do anything damage. But he said to remove that is expensive. And then the other rest of it was that he roughly said $70,000 to $120,000. That's a lot of money.
Thank you, and keep wearing your medal tomorrow.
Look, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to present to us here at Council. I understand that you have also presented this petition to the Rural Community Board prior to this. Please be assured that your concerns are being heard by us, and also that there is not yet a decision to demolish the hall, and I can ensure that the building will be kept secure and that the community and council can agree to a plan to move forward. So also want to acknowledge that there is work on digitising our archive records that relate to the funding and construction of the hall, and we will make these available to the public as soon as it is. So thank you very much for making your presentation and your petition today.
Thank you very much, Your Honour.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Marinas Kope, the chairman of the Save Our Iconic Lakeland Queen Society, up to the table to present to his petition and also a presentation. And just a reminder, 5 minutes for the presentation, and then we will take the questions.
Excuse me, Madam Worship. Sorry, point of order. Under 26(2)(e). Could councillors and the public be advised, please, when a similar petition was brought to us only a few weeks ago, it was declined. And I think councillors as well as the public are owed an explanation as to what, since the wording on the petition for today, no offence to our presenters, is very similar. So could we have some explanation why the previous was declined, but this has been allowed?
I'm happy to chime in here. Councillor, the wording of this petition is reasonably narrower than the previous one. While similar, it is narrower, and it focuses on what the petitioners would ask council to do rather than a much broader scope of the previous question. So on that basis, when it was received by me, I encouraged us to allow the petitioners to make their voice heard to council.
Forgive me, but is not the idea is the development of facilities amenable to the to the boat? So was the purpose of the first petition?
The purpose of the first petition was significantly broader, and on that basis there was a difference, and on the basis that the current petition is narrowed down to what the petitioners would like council to do, I'd like to perhaps encourage us to hear from them so that we can figure out what council.
And I'm looking forward to hearing what they're saying first. I'd just like to clarify the inconsistencies between 1 week we're saying one thing with one petition, next week we're in a very similar vein. We turned down the original one because we said it wasn't an issue for council. A similar worded petition is now acceptable, and I just wonder perhaps if the authors of the original petition aren't perhaps owed an apology. But thank you both for listening, and I'll allow the thank you for the presentation.
I think we'll respectfully let the presenters get on with it, but I do want to note that at the time it was mentioned that the previous petition was outside the terms of reference of that committee and of council, what they're requesting. But we are pleased to have you here before us. Also acknowledge that you have two other supporters, potentially presenters too. So without further ado, we will hand over to you to cover off your petition. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, councillors and CEO, Mr. Murray. We thank you very much for allowing us this time. I'm chairman of a group recently formed in the public interest called Save Our Iconic Lakeland Queen. With me is Vice Chairman Johan Arts and Professional Engineer Chris McGrath. Now, the heartbeat on the lake has gone. Where? It's gone to the slipway at Sulphur Point. But how did this happen? We're not looking for answers to that question here this morning, but on behalf of the petitioners and the wider community, we are here to urge council to assist us to bring back this icon of over 37 years. A tourism business that has put millions into our economy. Had 22 staff, all redundant, and you can help reverse all this. 37 years of showing our manahiri, our hospitality, our lake, our history, and our unique paddle steamer, the Lakeland Queen, very happily named, I would say. Now, here's a short video to remind you of the Lakeland Queen. This icon helped to promote Rotorua to many thousands who have enjoyed her hospitality over the many years. She's become known as one of the must-dos in the city, and visitors still ask, where is that paddle steamer? We hope it's not going to the scrapyard. Your Worship and councillors, many questions could be asked. Why has the new boardwalk cut across the Lakeland Queen's turning circle to exit and enter her berth? We believe that Council has obstructed access to the Lakeland Queen to its own jetty. I refer to Section 33(2) of the Te Arawa Lakes Settlement Act 2006, the relevant part of which reads 33(2). An existing structure may remain in or on a Te Arawa lake bed or in the Crown stratum, and may be used, occupied, accessed, repaired and maintained without consent of the trustees of the Te Arawa Lakes Trust as the owners of the lake beds, and B, without charge by the trustees. Now,
30 seconds remaining, but please continue.
Sorry?
30 seconds remaining, but please continue.
Okay. How many seconds? 30. 30, okay. To allow the Lakeland Queen access to its own jetty, the new walkway needs to be shortened. 2, the Council needs to restore all services that were illegally cut off from the Lakeland Queen's jetty during the lakefront redevelopment, including fuel, electricity, water and wastewater, and we request that the Council consider upgrading both the Lakeland Queen's jetty and also the Council's jetty. The Worship and councillors, there are a few issues which we need to be addressed before any potential buyer would come forward. Therefore, we'd appreciate a round-table discussion with you all as soon as possible. Thank you very much for allowing us to be presenting this petition.
And thank you very much for taking the time to collect the support for the petition and to present to us today. We'll now open up if there are any questions. We'll just take a few. Question from Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Gentlemen, what was the act that you referred to that section 33(2) comes from?
Yes, it is in the Lake Te Arawa. It's the Te Arawa Lakes Settlement Act, 2006.
And that says that the Lakeland Queen is entitled to access its jetty. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. So if the council were to invest in this, what are the prospects of finding somebody to operate the vessel?
Well, there's significant economic benefits for the Rotorua community, which starts with the recreation of 20 jobs that have been lost. We understand the liquidator has 3 parties that are interested in taking over the commercial operation. However, negotiations with these parties can't progress until there is a commitment from the council to re-establish or restore the lakefront infrastructure that facilitates the operation of the ship.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will take some time to clarify that as well, on whether that is accurate. We've got a question from Councillor Kaifong and then Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Chair. And just following on from that answer, so given that the Lakeland Queen has currently the company that owns the Lakeland Queen, that owns the boat itself, so I understand it has gone into liquidation. So put my legal hat back on. So in terms of a question of status or standing, what status or standing does your organisation have to negotiate on behalf of the liquidators for the business?
Thank you, Councillor Kaifong. None. Basically, very true, we're not here on behalf of the owners. And as far as liquidators are concerned, we have not been in touch with them either. We've just kept this as a very simple presentation. And our concern on behalf of many in Rotorua to bring that icon back into the lake.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. And Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tēnā koe, Chairman MK.
Kia ora, amigo.
Kia ora. I agree with you. Memories, 37 years of it. The two quick questions that I have is first one is, did MBIE or New Zealand Tourism and Trade, did they ever come to the party to assist this beautiful icon?
No, not as far as I'm aware.
And the other one was, how much did COVID hurt?
Well, the COVID has hit many businesses, and not only the Lakeland Queen, but I mean the ancillary services that we saw here in our city, the hospitality, we all suffered, and they all suffered, and so did the Queen. But I don't think that has the immediate bearing on why the Queen is in the state that she is at the moment.
And I say kia ora to Terry and wish him well for the future. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes our presentation and our questions. We thank you once again for taking the time to submit and also present to this petition.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Your Worship, so could I ask what's the action point following on from the presentation we've heard today? What will be the next step? Do we contact the owner? Because we have previously reached out for a meeting which I believe he declined. So what's the next step now?
We have taken the time to read and listen to the petition, and so Council will now consider. For both petitions, myself as the chair of this Council will provide a response by writing to you all, hopefully within some short time. Yes, so you can expect to hear from me shortly. Thank you. So that concludes our petitions. We will now move into our staff reports, of which the public is welcome to stay for, or if you do not wish to, then you are welcome to head off as well. So we have our financial performance for the 9 months ended 31st of March. We will then have our Chief Executive delegations, our appointment of Chief Executive to BOPLAS, and then our local government conference. We may take a short break at that stage. So I'd like to welcome Thomas and also David to the table. And can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report, financial performance for the 9 months ended 31st of March. That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour to receive the report, please say aye. Against? Carried, thank you. And we'll hand over to you guys to go over your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Worship and elected members. This report and presentation cover the quarter ended March 2024, so the first 9 months of the financial year. I'll take the report as read, but I will draw attention to a couple of points through this presentation. In terms of income, we are trending in line with previous months, so overall income below year-to-date budget. However, in line with previous months, the majority of that relating to the timing of capital subsidies. So work that we have not yet met the milestone to receive funds from external funders, just behind year-to-date budget on that. Also, with some of our user fees are also below year-to-date budget, specifically regarding the Howard Morrison Centre, the Energy Event Centre, and some of our parking revenue. But that is offset by higher rates as a result of lower remissions on our budgets. We've had some higher investment income, and some of our operational subsidies from NZTA Wakatahi are higher than budgeted year-to-date. In terms of expenditure, we are tracking ahead of budget. Also, 2.26 million ahead of year-to-date budget. A lot of that relates to, I guess, expenditure we've incurred to receive additional operational subsidies. So when I show you the P&L shortly, we'll see that we've incurred additional costs within some of our roading budgets, but that's been offset by some of that additional operational subsidy revenue, which I'll show shortly. And also, in line with previous months, our interest expense higher than budget year-to-date due to the timing of some of that money from CIP and from the Ministry of Environment. Capital expenditure at the year-to-date is 30.9 million behind budget. We were working through with the infrastructure team and some of the project managers around what that will look like at the end of the financial year, but we will not achieve the full budget. And in terms of net debt, our net debt is 10 million higher than it was this time last month, just in line with the borrowing requirements approved within the annual plan. I'll take a quick point to note here that you'll see that our gross borrowing is significantly higher than it was this time last month, and also cash on hand higher than it was last month. We've had an opportunity come through, identified by ourselves and with PwC, our Treasury advisors, that this time next year, next April, we have a $26 million maturity that we would ordinarily arrange with the LGFA to roll over this time next year. There was a short window with markets where we were able to do that early, so we have what was known as pre-funding that maturity. We've taken out the loan, put it on term deposit at favourable rates until we pay that maturity in a year's time. And the opportunity that we were able to deliver through the markets at that time meant that our net interest gain will be about $250,000 for the year on that transaction. So net debt in line with what was in the annual plan, gross debt and cash on hand a little higher, just reflecting that pre-funding of next year's maturity. Quickly going through the profit and loss at the end of March, you'll see there that fees and charges remain behind budget, just reflecting the challenges we've discussed for the last 9 months, especially with Rotorua's return to normal in the tourism front and what that means for parking for the EUC and for the Sir Howard Morrison Centre. You'll see also that at the end of March, our development contribution revenue was marginally ahead of budget, so we were pretty much right on target for what the transactions from developers. Capital subsidies being behind budget, as we've discussed, and also the operational being ahead of budget related to that transport expenditure. So a slide we've shown for a number of months. Just when we look at the P&L, we see a large number showing as a accounting deficit. When we strip back the aspects that are capital in nature, we'll see that we are at the end of March, we do have a small operating surplus of 303,000. That number's remained relatively constant over the last number of months, and staff are working to identify opportunities to remain in an operational surplus position. However, when we look at the overall accounting deficit, the lion's share of that does relate to that lower capital subsidy, as we haven't yet received money from some of those external funders towards our capital projects. And lastly, just looking at our capital program at the end of March, we've delivered $83.7 million worth of CapEx against a year-to-date budget of $114.6 million. If we look at the table there, I guess some of the challenges, some of the aspects we are below budget in sewerage, with some of our community wellbeing projects being the aquatic centre, is unlikely to achieve their full-year budgets, and we're looking to understand exactly where we are likely to be in terms of the program at the end of June, but just signalling that we will not achieve the full budget. And I'm happy to take questions on the content of the report or the presentation.
Thank you very much, David. First question from Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, David and Thomas. Just getting back to the rates, you mentioned that we're actually ahead of budget due to not so many remissions coming through. Have you noticed any issues with people non-paying rates when the squeeze is coming on? Has that started to show at all?
No, we track that on a weekly basis. I think the number of ratepayers who have moved on to a direct debit have mitigated that to a degree, that people are able to keep on top of their obligations through regular payments. We've not yet noticed a significant uptick in our non-payment of rates, but it is something that we monitor on a weekly basis.
Thank you. And I do have a supplementary just with regards to the operating surplus. That's sitting around about 303,000 at the moment. We've got May, June to go, and we know that some of our CCOs are not doing so well. Will that all get swallowed up?
Yes, at this stage we're forecasting to end the year maybe slightly better than budget from that operating perspective, taking into account the timing of capital or subsidies. So we're on track for that. I think with regards to the end of year surplus though, financial position, I think we do need to signal that we are going to have a good look at our work in progress. Work in progress is obviously where we're doing capital works and we're holding it until it can be capitalised, and there are some rather large items in there from previous year that we're going to probably flush out of CapEx and recognise from an accounting perspective as operating expenses. So that'll have an impact of pulling our surplus down, and I think they're just set an expectation that one of those items is probably the work that was done years back around the contact bed for the wastewater treatment plant, and so we'll be looking to write that off at this stage while the organisation works with all groups on understanding where that will go into the future, and that will probably have a close to combined at least a $10 million impact on our P&L. But from a pure operating perspective, yes, we're forecast to end the year pretty much on budget.
Thank you. And I'll just get Andrew to also provide a response for you.
Thank you for that, Thomas. Yeah, I think at this stage there are a number of aspects of our end-of-year financial position that cannot be gleaned from the year-to-date numbers. Part of the operating surplus that you see has been our council's non-filling of a number of roles. Some of that has been intentional and some of that has been circumstantial. It's possible that there might be opportunities to fill those roles at a better rate given some of the changes in central government resourcing of the ministries. So I'm taking a view about which of those we do fill and that might eat into the surplus. Having said that, that's relatively minor compared to the items that Thomas has just mentioned.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Waru, followed by Councillor Wang.
My question was answered in the last quarter.
Thank you. Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you both for the presentation and the report. Just a few quick questions. First one being in the income, the financial and development contributions for in this update are 41,000 ahead to the year-to-date budget, but I know that previously, since we reintroduced it, it has tracked below budget for quite a while now. We don't have the mirror ball, but with what we're proposing and the going out into consultation with in the LTP to increase the development contributions, are we seeing that this is probably the bump before that happens, as it happened when we reintroduced DCs?
Yeah, so I guess two parts to that question, Councillor. So the first part is around we have probably for the last, since introducing them, lagged behind budget, and we kind of expected that as there was a flurry of activity to get applications in before the start date. So a lot of the development that took place following those applications wasn't captured, and now we're seeing there is quite a solid pipeline with regards to work in the district. So now we're seeing that uplift, and we're getting better than budget at the moment, but pretty much bang on. With regards to the LTP, I guess the development contributions budget is set on the underlying growth assumptions that we've got in there, and coming back to JP around the work that him and his team are doing, it's quite tight linked to that. So as long as the macroeconomics of stay same and that growth occurs, then there is that pipeline there to get that revenue. But all subject to the economics of it all going forward with regards to the economies, etc.
Awesome, thanks for that. The second question is just around the OPEX, that operating expenses are 3.1 million higher than the year-to-date budget, primarily due to the adverse weather events which is noted here that is offset by waka kotahi. But the other big one is the cost escalation with the waste management contracts, which is 1.38 million higher than year-to-date budget. Are you able to explain what's caused that? Is it the levies?
So, through Chair, the contracts we hold with waste management have a number of escalation clauses to recognise inflation. So the contract asks us to go and look at a mixture of different measures and give allowance to the contractor for any movements and inflation, and that's backwards looking. When we prepared the budget, we were using the best information at the time when setting the budgets. However, events overtook reality when the actual inflation came through for us to pay actual compared to what we had budgeted, and that's what's come through in the payment in that expense line.
Thank you. So that's mainly inflation caused. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have a final question from Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I promise to make it quick. Thank you. Through the Chair. Thank you, David, for your report. 2 quick questions. First of all, could I, and sorry, this may breach beside your own for other officers, just to follow up on Councillor Patterson's question around the remissions, are we confident, given the conditions and us increasing the budget last year, the amount of rates remission, are we confident that everyone possibly affected by the rainfalls last year are aware of the remission policy and the opportunity? Because I'm a little bit surprised that we, seem to be down considering the amount of issues we had heard about from properties. So,
yeah, we did have a large. Not large. Obviously, there was a cluster of applications around at Lake Rotorua, and we believe we have captured all of those. We did have a welfare team in place, and they were engaging directly with the affected properties, and so it has adequately covered that. We did also receive a number of other requests from other residents close to the lake as well, but those were more around erosion of the lakefront rather than not being able to use their properties. So rates remissions weren't given to those in those circumstances. So with regards to particularly the lake levels of Rotorua, we believe we do have captured all of them. If you are aware of any though, I'm more than happy to get them to come and talk to us.
Thank you very much, and thank you. My final question is just on page, of our agenda 17, the Sir Howard Morrison Performing Arts Centre, Energy Events Centre and Parking, representing both a quieter summer period, a broader delay in recovery for Rotorua's tourism sector, which is recovering from COVID-19 disruption slower than the national average. I find that a little bit hard to reconcile because in the Daily Post and Rotorua NZ statements, as well as the Rotorua Business Chamber, said what a terrific summer we had and how accommodation was full. I find it a little bit hard to reconcile. Could you give me some advice on that?
Sure. So when we do cross-reference our narrative against Rotorua NZ, especially with the tourism, and the feedback we've had from them is that the last several months have been really good, but when we look at a whole year perspective, that the annualised growth is growing well, but below the national average for the way that tourism is recovering across the country. So agree that the last couple of months have been very strong, but when you look at the entire financial year, it has been slower than the national average.
Could I just ask, so the quieter summer period, is that perhaps needed refining?
I think that comment is tied more to the events and venues component rather than the visitor and tourist component, where we've talked about before that that whole sector has been impacted across New Zealand with regards to events coming to the country and going around, and so that comment is a reflection of where that market sits, not the tourist visitor market.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much. That concludes that report. So we will now move on to our next item, which is on page 23 of our agenda, the Chief Executive Delegations. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Against? Thank you. I'd invite now Una to overview this report.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So, councillors, every time or when a new chief executive comes on board, it's an opportunity for the council, yourselves, to have a look at the items, the things, the powers that you as a council delegate to the chief executive to undertake on your behalf. Following Andrew's coming on board and throughout the process of his induction, the delegations have been reviewed and they're now in front of you as an opportunity to have those adopted and incorporated into the overall delegations manual. Happy to take any questions on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Una. Just a question under the financial delegation. It says that in the cases of a civil defence emergency affecting the district, the CE is authorised to approve expenditure up to $2 million. Is that any civil defence emergency, or is that only if a local state of emergency is declared?
I just might refer that one to either Andrew or Stavros.
It's my understanding that it's if a civil defence emergency is declared.
Like a local state of emergency?
Yes, a state of emergency.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Of which, just for your information, we've only ever had 2, and those were due to flooding events. Question from Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Quick question. Is this the same delegations that Jeff had while he was with us, or is there any variations?
There is one variation that's been put in place, and that's to reflect, I suppose, the volume of projects financially that go through this organisation. So, under the financial delegations, those amounts are proposed to be increased. They originally were 300,000, I believe, for a budgeted item. We're recommending they go up to $1 million, and in the other one, which is the state of emergency, is an increase to $2 million. It was originally $1 million.
I might also add that we've reduced the unbudgeted expense budget from 100,000 to 50,000 to reflect the level of rigour that goes into an approved budget item from governance, as opposed to an unbudgeted one.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Waru.
Tēnā koe te manukura. Just wanted to ask you now, or Andrew, one of you, when compared to similar sized councils, is this on point?
Thank you for that question. It's surprisingly difficult to find this information publicly, so I proactively reached out to the independent chair of our Audit and Risk Committee and deputy chair. Their advice is that this is still somewhat lower than an organisation of our size, that the previous delegations were, in their words, excessively lower. However, given where we've been in terms of the previous delegations, that the recommendation was not to increase them to a point where they would necessarily be in line with other councils our size, but some way along that journey.
Okay, given that corridor, do you think we're, we don't, well, I wouldn't want to hamstring anything happening should a emergency or anything like that happen. Are you comfortable, I'm asking you directly, are you comfortable with that delegation? You can manage that?
I am, through your worship, I am on the basis that I've seen this council make itself available for emergency meetings, and with that ability to get you all around a room and approve expenditure, I am comfortable that this is reasonable for me to proceed with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. And just to further answer it, the situation of which that may be necessary for longer is in cases where to ensure the sustained health or life of people, necessary infrastructure needs to be immediately put in place, or food and health resources need to be immediately deployed to them, at which case we also have a Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Group that contains all the mayors, and we will have adequate support, not only from this council, but also from the region if there ever was an emergency of that scale, for your reassurance. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have a question about tender acceptance, clause CE5. It talks about, in conjunction with the relative committee chairperson and group manager, acceptance of a tender over 1 million but not exceeding 2 million, and then it says, or a continuing contract over $5,000 per week but not exceeding $25,000 per week, which is quite a significant amount of money. I'm just concerned that we don't have a repeat of what happened with the Morris Street Dam. How is this particular clause going to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Through your worship, these need to be read in conjunction. So the tender acceptance limit sits within the delegations limit. So it would only be for budgeted items anyway. It's not the controls are at the budget level rather than at the tender acceptance level. That explains things.
It's just that it says or a continuing contract. So that...
Provided that it's within budget,
yes,
and
yes.
only provided that it's within budget.
So the consultation with the committee chairperson, and that would be infrastructure and environment, and group manager, and you would then decide, yep, that's kosher, we're going to go ahead with that.
Provided that it's within budget.
Right. Thank you.
So, just a question on that. So presumably there would have already been a council committee decision to agree for that direction. So that was the circumstances, correct? Yeah. And then it would be part of implementing that project that then the CE and the chair of the relevant committee will sign off on the tenders. But there would have already been a decision by the committee or council. I'll just get Stavros to further answer.
Through you, Madam Chair, just to remind elected members with that specific project, the reason it came to the committee for approval, it was beyond the allocated delegations and required a variation approval by the whole council. So the delegation is meant to define the thresholds for which officers can exercise judgment, and when these thresholds are exceeded, it needs a required approval by the elected members. So I don't understand the connection between the two things, but those projects, that project that was referred to came to the committee specifically because the delegations require the committee to approve those variations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just having a look at attachment 1, page 24 of the agenda down at under Delegated Authority CE1. It says, in conjunction with the Mayor, execute under seal warrants of appointment for council officers. Could you please tell me who the current council officers are?
There's, through you, Madam Mayor, there is a number of officers that hold a warrant to undertake and execute their roles. So that will be examples like building inspectors, animal control officers, and a whole raft of them. So that's what that means. So prior to those staff going out in the field to undertake their business, they are issued with a warrant. That warrant contains all of the various pieces of legislation that they work within and is available on request if someone asked to see their warrant if an officer is going on site or anything like that, for example.
Okay, so that's the same as a statutory officer in that case, is it? Like
question I'm
pushing for is like, is the financial officer different?
explanation of where we pulled that figure from, what basis we suddenly went from, sorry, was it 1 million to 2? Personally, even if 2 wasn't found to be enough, I wouldn't have a problem. We need to have, people provided for. I'd just say that, I would have expected some formula or some proof of evidence where we came up with this figure from, but thank you.
I might respond to that to just say, very valid question. Typically what we've found with other councils is it tends to be double the amount that is outside of an emergency. So just simply based on that formula, it was 2 million as opposed to 1.
Thank you. So we do have a mover and a seconder. We had a mover and seconder to receive the motion, but I need a mover and a seconder for the motion that Council adopt the Chief Executive delegations. That's moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Kai Fong. Just checking if there was any discussion on this item. Councillor Waru.
Just a quick one. Are these only reviewed each time we get a new chief executive, or are they reviewed, because I think it's important we keep up with the times in terms of delegations and things like that. We're having more and more emergencies, environmental things happening. Don't want to hamstring our operations just because we don't have the delegation. Just something to put out there, that maybe we need to look at that a few more than just when the chief executive comes on board.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Typically they have been, but we do keep a watching brief on what's going on, locally and that sort of stuff. And there's no reason that they can't be reviewed on a more regular basis.
Yeah, just to keep up with time. Kia ora.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There have been disasters around the country, Kaikoura, Christchurch, flooding in Auckland. Has there ever been analysis of delegations post those sorts of events to know whether we've got them right for this? Because it's when the car's hitting the fan, it's going to be hard to change that. I'm just wondering whether that's any analysis has been done post civil defence emergencies.
Not that we're aware of. However, I'm happy to ask it either through myself or Deputy Kai Fong at the next plenary civil defence emergency. It may be worthwhile investigating. Oh, sorry, plenary civil defence emergency management group.
Because I think that's the one thing that is hard to predict, but we've been through it as a country a few times, whether there's been lessons learned.
Yes, definitely. Perhaps we will get Stavros to provide a response.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just to remind all of us that touch wood, in the case of a significant emergency such as the ones Councillor Brown outlined, there are 2 elements to that. One is the response to that, looking after people, their welfare, taking people out of harm's way, try to protect public and private property as best as we can, if we can. So usually these things are covered by our allocated operational budgets that really get reprioritized. I'm not aware of any case where the operational budgets of the council were not sufficient to be reallocated to that response phase. Then you've got the second phase of repair and recovery, and that involves significant capital reinvestment to rectify what happened. At that point in time, they're always going to be subject to the appropriate delegations of the council to agree capital improvement projects for the reasons you are well understood. But in terms of the response phase, remember the council already has approved annual budgets, and when you have a significant emergency like that, a lot of our normal operations are put aside or put in second priority and reallocate the resources within that existing framework. So, as I said, in my years in dealing with emergencies, I have never experienced a case where the normal operating budgets of the council were not sufficient to deal with the response phase. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. We've had our discussion. I'd like to now put that to the vote, that council adopt the chief executive delegations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. And we now move to page 30, appointment of Chief Executive to Boplas. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And we'll hand back to Una to overview.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So this report here is to look at the appointment of the Chief Executive to Boplas. Just in summary, Boplas is a council-controlled organisation of which this council is a shareholder. Under the constitution of that, the Chief Executive is appointed as a director, and with the coming on board of our new Chief Executive, this is just getting authority from you to have that appointment of Andrew as director. Boplas, which will follow an advice going to the company's office to change that directorship. So happy to take any questions again on that if needed.
Councillor Waru.
Sorry, just a quick question. Do we only get one position on that board?
Yes, we do.
Good one. Happy to support.
That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Brown. Were there any further questions or discussion? No, this is a very straightforward paper, so I would move out the recommendations that Council appoints Andrew Moraes as Director of Boplas Ltd on behalf of Rotorua Lakes Council, that Boplas Ltd be advised that Andrew Moraes has been appointed as a Director of the company on behalf of Rotorua Lakes Council, and the company is requested to advise the company's office of the appointment. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. And we will now go to our Local Government New Zealand Super Local Conference. We'll take this item and then after that we'll have our morning tea break. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? It's moved by Councillor Kaifong, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And Una will once again overview this report.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So with this one here, gearing up again for the Local Government New Zealand Conference. This year that is being referred to as the Super Local Conference. As per the Council's policy, as per that policy, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive go in attendance, plus the addition of 2 councillors. And this year, in consultation through the Mayor's office, we've got nominations there for Councillor Barker and Councillor Waru to attend the conference. Just as a point of note as well is that our policy covers for 1 member of the Te Tato Aotearoa board to go to the conference as well alongside yourselves, but they will appoint their own representative. The Lakes Community Board also have a local conference, and this year it is being held at the same time as your one, and they go through a similar process where they themselves appoint their candidates to go. So happy to take any questions.
Councillor Maxwell, followed by Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Una. Can I just ask the question, is Te Maruata meeting before this conference starts this year, do you know?
Yes, it is on, the conference is on the Wednesday, Te Maruata is on the Tuesday. There is also a young elected members meeting as well. And Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Worship, for you. Could I just clarify, so we have 6 people going from our particular, so you're looking at just under, $1,400 per person for registration alone. So we're looking at close to $8,500 plus accommodation and travel. Could someone tell me roughly what the budget is we've set aside for this?
It's roughly that. So there is always a calculation done. We budget every year for that number of people to be put aside, and there is also a budget for travel allowance. So that is all incorporated within the existing budgets that we have.
Thank you. So could you give me a ballpark figure? Would we be looking at 15,000? Is that far too high? Are we?
I believe that would be too high for this particular conference. Yeah.
Okay. And flights and accommodation are being booked at the moment, so we will know the exact, once we have approved that people can go, and then we will know the exact figure once the flights and accommodation booked. From looking at the flights appear to be affordable, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any further questions? Councillor Waru.
No, just a point of Takupapa, I will be attending the Maruata. Just thought I'd let them know.
Thank you very much. Look, there appears to be no further questions on this. I would like to move it. Do I have a seconder? It's seconded by Councillor Maxwell. I'll read it out. That Council determined that the following two councillors attend the 2024 LGNZ Superlocal Conference, Councillor Barker and Councillor Waru. And point 3, that Council note that Te Tātou Aotearoa Board will appoint their representative to attend the conference. Is there any discussion on this item? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say I would have no problem with yourself and Mr Moraes going as our new CE. I do, with all due respect to Councillors Waru and Barker, I think that this at the moment, when we've got people paying for our blood over sewage schemes, 10% rate rises for the next 2 years and almost 9 after a 9% rate rise last year. I think we need to show some leadership on this. With all due respect, I know it's a very small amount of money in the total part of it, but I think we need to start showing some leadership on this. So I would, I'm sorry, I won't be in favour of this, but for those of you going, I know you'll do a great job in representing us well, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It is a small amount, you're correct, but it does have very great value and benefit. These local government conferences are the only times that councils and our leaders of the mayors and chief executives get the opportunity to all come together. And I know in the past it's been valuable for signalling things like the Three Waters issues that we will have coming up. So we look forward to also returning and presenting our learnings and our findings to council. That is part of the attendance of the conference, and we hope that you will all find that beneficial as we share that information with you too.
I'm already counting down. Thank you. Look forward to it.
Councillor Lee, followed by Councillor May.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm no great fan of local government New Zealand, but on this occasion there are speakers including the Prime Minister, the Minister of Local Government and the Honourable Shane Jones. This is a new government, it's a changing government. There's going to be, they're going to want to communicate how they want to do local government differently. So I think, you know, I'm pleased that those councillors are going to take one for the boys, as I previously said, and I'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was more than happy to second this motion because I do see the value, and I think we're taking good delegation down there each time. And I recall that after Councillor Patterson came back from the last conference, the report he'd given and what he expressed to all of us, what he picked up throughout that whole conference, that's part of the value of it. Can I ask, are we this year at all putting in anything in the awards section of the evening? Do you know?
Yes, we will be putting in an application for, there are the local government awards. Rotorua has been a winner of a number of those in the past, yes, and we think that we have some very valuable submissions to put in there. So we look forward to hopefully a positive result from that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you be able to tell us what those entries are?
With the registration is only just opened. Staff are aware that we have a number of topics that would be interested in, but we have not finalised what those could be or the submission for it yet. It's still very early days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can actually we'll forward the submission to it. We'll make sure that that gets forwarded to all of the councillors so you can see what we are applying for. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. And I'll obviously have to say that I would support this after my experience last year. I was even considering putting my hand in my pocket and paying for it myself because it's the only form of professional development we get, personal development, I should say. So I would encourage my colleagues to make the most of it, make some new connections, and as Councillor Lee pointed out, some great speakers again this year. So good luck to everybody attending.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Wang, followed by Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I know we're past that section, but just a very quick one. Will there be any remits this year that we'll support or decide on to take down?
There is the opportunity for councils to present remits at the AGM that's held. Every council gets 2 votes, one from the mayor, one from the deputy mayor. Oh, actually, sorry, I need to double check that. We get 2 votes, one from the, yeah, that is for everyone. Before the remits are formally confirmed, there is an opportunity for them to come to a council meeting, at which stage you, as councillors, get an opportunity to review them, consider them, and let us know whether you wish us, as the Rotorua Lakes Council, to support them. We will take that as a vote at the time. If it's won or lost, that is how myself and the deputy will vote accordingly. If there is any councillors that wish to put forward a remit ourselves, then we can bring that to a council meeting to be approved.
Thank you, and just like to signal my support for this motion. It's I think especially now with the uncertainty and with the change in government, but primarily around the uncertainty around local government and a lot of the issues that we're faced with right now, LGNZ is incredibly valuable, I think, to the collective voice for local government, councils across the country, and our voice is much stronger when it's a collective like LG, when it is centred into a collective like LGNZ. So very happy to support and look forward to the learnings provided through this conference as well. But just to signal that I will also, as Councillor Waru and Maxwell have signalled, I'll be attending the Young Elected Members Conference, not the Te Maroata.
Thank you. Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you. I, like Councillor Patterson, really enjoyed my time at the LGNZ conference last year. When I look at the outputs, that what's the consequence of us going down there? I think LGNZ is really important, and particularly the Te Maruata. It was empowering, I guess, for Māori Wood councillor to go down and meet others within the same situation. I have to agree, though, that it's a professional development exercise, really. I can't really see any other outputs myself personally. And so I have to agree with Councillor O'Brien that I just, having attended the Rotorua Council meeting and seeing the way that our ratepayers are hurting, I do think that it might be a small amount, but there's lots of little places where the small amounts, we should be looking more at cutting these sort of costs because those small amounts in these areas could build up. And I support what Councillor O'Brien said, and I'll be voting against it. Thanks.
Thank you for that feedback. That appears to be all the discussion. Thank you very much for those who have shared your views on it. This is certainly valuable, and while we are looking at being as prudent as possible across the organisation, we also must ensure that we continue to invest in things that do bring value. So we look forward to heading down to the LGNZ conference to represent Rotorua and make sure that our voice is heard, especially with the significant speakers and leaders that will be in attendance as well. So we have a mover and a seconder for that. May I please put that to the vote, and I'll just read it one more time. The Council determined that the following 2 councillors attend the 2024 LGNZ Superlocal Conference, Councillor Barker and Councillor Waru, and that Council note that the Te Tato Aotearoa Board will appoint their representative to attend the conference. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Madam Mayor, I'll abstain from that vote, thank you.
Yes, that's okay. And same as Councillor Waru, we will note your abstention, thank you. So that brings us now to our morning tea break. So 20-minute break, please. So we will return at 11:20. Thank you. Back, everyone. Thank you for the slight leniency on a few more minutes. We will get back into our meeting. We are on page 40 and we are at the confidential items to be released for the quarter ending 31st of March. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive that? That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Deputy Kai Fong. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. I'll get Una to overview this report.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So, councillors, again, we've just got a list of items for you, for your information. These are items that have come previously before you in a confidential session, and this is just to signal to you that these items have now been released with the necessary redactions if required. Happy to take any questions.
This is what was always going to happen, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, no, okay,
yep. Okay, there appear to be no questions on this item. So there is no vote required, so we'll move on to the next item, which is our progress report. So we'll take our corporate services first, page 73. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? It's moved by Councillor Kai Fong, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. And we invite Thomas to overview his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions the members may have.
Thank you. So this is from page 73 to 84, so I'll give councillors a moment to get there. Councillor Brown.
Just wondered, thank you, Madam Mayor, I wonder whether Thomas might like to comment on the Mamaku Hall situation, if that's appropriate. Certainly, through you, Madam Chair. Yesterday, along with Councillor Barker, Colin Guyton, the Chair of the Rural Community Board, we met with the MRA, the Mamaku Residents Association, to just discuss the three builders' reports that are there. And what we've landed on at the moment is the next step with regards to just getting a better understanding of a couple of elements and realignment of those reports. There's some differences with regards to the scope of those reports. And then we're going to meet back with the MRA again and work through getting an understanding of what the best next steps are. So I don't know whether Councillor Barker could add, but I felt the meeting was quite positive. We're all fairly aligned with regards to what we're working towards, and looking forward to meeting them again, hopefully in the next week or so, to understand what those next steps are.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, and thank you, Thomas. Where is it? Here it is. Here. I see there's a delay in the revaluations this cycle, but it says it was due to other territorial authorities, not so much us.
Yep, so normally our district revaluation is completed around December, and it's always done at the same time as the LTP, so it's in that same kind of 3-year cycle. Tauranga City Council was ahead of us in that cycle, and the Valuer General had some questions, I guess, that they had, which meant some of that work had to be redone. And so because we were slotted behind them, ours got moved out as a result. We've met a couple of times now with the Valuer General, and there was a little bit of rework, unfortunately, that our Valuer had to do on ours. It's just part of the normal process that the Valuer General has with regards to reviewing that. And our Finance Director is meeting with the Valuer General on Monday with a view of closing that out and signing that off, at which point then we're good to go with regards to sending the letters out to our district and starting that process with regards to objections if there are any. And so we're still within the time frame of getting that completed in time for 1 July, where those new values will become effective for the next year's rating.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one quickie. The 10 resignations over 2 weeks, did that include Gina's change of direction?
Could possibly have. I'm not too sure of what the 10 were, but there was a little bit of a bump in that period, but yeah.
And are we looking at replacing all of them?
So as per previous process, we go through the business casing process of identifying what that role was and around the need for it. I can't give you a view of across all those 10, but my understanding is a couple of them are mine, that they are being replaced because they are critical roles, but there is a business casing and business approval to go through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Thomas. 2 risks have been closed during this period, page 73, relating to the library and COVID. Could you elaborate on what they are?
I'm sorry, I don't have that detail, but I think that the team can follow up and share that one.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any further questions? No. Thank you very much, Thomas, for your update on corporate services. We'll now move to corporate planning and governance on page 84. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this? It's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. And over to you, Una.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So, councillors, I will take the report as read. Just wish, though, to do a little bit more of an update around the long-term plan. I think in terms of the engagement, the figures have moved on from what we printed in the papers. So we do, as of sort of Friday, Monday, we have approximately 100 or so submissions in. That is growing by the day, and is, well, expected or hoped that will increase as we get closer to the closing date of consultation, being the 6th of May. In the period, so the 3 weeks that we have been going for consultation, there have been over 1,000 people that have connected with yourselves through the various events. And I believe so the evening events have come to a close, and there's a couple of smaller events to happen during sort of business hours and stuff next week. So we are hoping and anticipating a bit of a spike in submissions coming through, and then we'll be working towards providing you with all of the submissions that have come in preparation for the deliberations which will take place around the 6th and the 7th of June. So happy to take any questions on the remainder of the report. Thank you.
Councillor Waru.
Kia ora, te manukura hotira. Kia ora, Una. Thank you for your report. Just a quick question around the what you just spoke about. Is this a typical sort of trend in your experience that last minute type submitters do their thing?
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes and no. I think in terms of previous pieces of consultation that we've had out in the last wee while, we have had significant numbers that have come through. This LTP seems to be a lot slower in terms of submissions that are coming through. So I guess that's why I'm saying I'm hoping or expecting that we will get a bit of a ramp up in the last week or so.
Kapa, and I've just got a second question just around the whānau day at the Sir Harold Morrison Centre. You've given a bit of a quick summary of the thing there. Has there been any more feedback on that? How was that taken by our people that attended, or any other information?
I think in terms of my report, it's just explaining the support that the marketing and comms team gave to that event. I think in terms of a follow-up on the actual event itself, we could bring that back through the appropriate report next time, so that would be Thomas's report.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question regarding the type of feedback that we're getting. We've certainly expanded the options for people to engage with us. What would you say would be the most popular? Is it the people sending in submissions via email? Is it filling out the online survey that we've got? Or is turning up and hand delivering? What's it working out as?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So to date, it has been the online submission form that has definitely been the most popular. We're getting a few sort of emails in, and the email submissions are usually more of the sort of the substantive written, I guess you'd call them a report style, but not as many as those as we've had in the past, and people are tending to use the online submission portal. Yep.
Just subsequent to that, if I recall correctly, the 2021 LTP, that had a very low engagement rate from, I think it was very few, like 3 submissions written. I think RDRR was 1 and then 2 others.
I'll have to go back and double check that, but I don't believe that to be the case. Again, in 2021, the online portal would have been the most significant one. I am intending to bring to you a summary of the engagement ahead of your deliberations. So that would be part of your agenda packs on the 6th and 7th of June. And we can do a little bit of a comparison there to the 2021 consultation. I guess I just want to sort of temper that though with the differences in the conversations that you have. Usually, and this is not just our council, this is across the country, where you get loads of submissions to the LTP is generally where a council has a significant project or a controversial piece of work that is being undertaken. That tends to drive, you know, more submissions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Brown and Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure this is the place to discuss it, but I'm going to fire it out anyway. And I would hope that it comes through in a follow-up report. Some of the councillors felt unsafe at some of the presentations. I wonder whether there's going to be a review of the situation some of us found ourselves in and whether there's some learnings from that. I don't expect an answer here, but at some point maybe we would have a think about that.
Councillor Brown, through Your Worship, I'm happy to answer that as an update rather than as a complete response. So following the first reports that councillors did feel unsafe, we undertook through our risk function a review of the next upcoming event and made some changes to how they were both presented and the potential safety and security concerns addressed. Don't really want to expand on those at this stage. My understanding was that that next event was quite a lot better. We're committed to continuing to monitor risks and understand if the circumstances that we wrap around our elected members and staff at these events is appropriate to the risk profile. So we're committed to continue doing that. I'd like to see the end of this campaign and then we do a broader review around the whole engagement piece and how we put elected members and staff in front of the community.
Sorry, Councillor Maxwell and then Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The top of page 86, what I want to comment on is events. That's something I think we in Rotorua are very proud of, and we're working hard to try and bring events, make events happen, and a lot of organisations are really putting hard work, and some of the ones named there, the BMX World Champs, the Lakeside, the multicultural show, the Te Arawa Kapahaka, the basketball tournament that went on for a week, things were happening. So I think next time we get a report which lumps everything in together, I think if we can ensure that they separate Sir Howard Morrison Centre, the event centre, and the events are given an explanation in its true right. I think we should be very proud in Rotorua for the many events that we're able to bring to our city, and we'll keep working hard on that too. So I just wanted to ensure to make a comment about that. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify, so my team don't deliver events, so if you're wanting that level of detail, they need to come through the progress report under corporate services currently. My team, and why there's a heading here in this report around events, is the support that is given to events and promoting them via social media is that particular one there. So we can make sure and work with the teams to provide some more information, but it wouldn't come through my report.
Thank you. And I'm aware that it's not our councillor that are running some of these events, but there are hard-working people out there doing them, and we're working together with council. I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just actually a point of clarification, really, just to say that there is one more evening meeting left, and that's tonight at Kaharoa Residents Association, and thank you to the councillors that are joining me tonight to talk to that group of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waru, followed by Councillor.
Kia ora, te manukura, thank you for your indulgence. I forgot to ask this one while I had the floor before. Una, just around there, te kimihanga. You've got some kōrero there about the animated presentation and the results, and you've correlated that stuff and what's happened. It says we can use this going forward to help us reach and communicate more effectively with more of our community. What were you mentioned there the results in there? I'm sort of just wanted to get a bit more into the detail around what data was analysed and how that's going to help.
Just going to defer to Suzanne, who's come in at the background. She is the lead on that piece of work, and yeah, just get her to run through that. I personally might need a little bit of a clarification on what you were actually asking for, but hopefully Suzanne.
Oh, so more around, data was analysed, but what data, I guess?
Morena councillors, through you, Madam Chair. We had over 1,250 responses from the survey, the Te Kimihanga survey that went out to the community in October and November last year. So we then used Alchema, which is our in-house data analysis and survey system, to interpret all of that data. Just reminding you, I think you might have been away. I did a presentation on this at the last council meeting. I've also got a meeting with Councillor Patterson, I think, in a week or so's time, which you're very welcome to join if you'd like me to go through it. But at a top-line level, we have used the feedback to find out how people find out information about council, how they feel about living in Rotorua now, and where they would like to see council focusing their energy. So primarily this survey was put together to enable our communications, marketing and engagement team to get a better understanding of how to reach our diverse communities. So from that point of view, it's been successful. We've now been able to adopt some new channel strategies and to try some new things based on those insights. The summary of the focus of council activity and how people felt, there's a presentation I can also send you. There's one on our website which I can send you a link to as well. But again, reiterating, if you would like to join the session that I'm going to take Councillor Patterson through, you would be very welcome.
No, thank you, Suzanne. And I do recall being in there when you did give that presentation. I was just wondering, I guess you summed it up a lot better, how that information is going to be used. That's also. Thank you very much. Kia ora.
And Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to respond to Councillor Brown raising the safety issue. I attended the meeting where safety concerns were raised, and I didn't personally feel unsafe at any stage. I think what we were confronted with was an audience who had essentially lost confidence in council, particularly as it pertains to the Rotorua scheme. I think they were trying to communicate that to us, and I think successfully did so in explicit terms. I stayed behind and had a cup of tea with them afterwards, and that's just my personal perspective.
Thank you. And clearly there were other personal perspectives on this, and I think it's important that we take those seriously as well. So there appear to be no further questions on that. So thank you very much. We will move on to our final progress report, Te Aroha Partnership This is on page 90, and we'd like to invite Gina to the table. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive Progress Report Te Aroha Partnership, moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Over to you, Gina.
Tēnā tātou, I will take the report as read. Oh, goodness. My battery's just died. So let's really challenge me. Can we take it as read, and I will respond as best I can. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Gina. Are there any questions? We are on page 90 to page 96. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Page 90, Gina, if you...
Yes.
These things don't run out of battery, by the way, just saying. Ngāti Whakaui Gifted Reserves Committee, so we have a report back from this committee. I think we have about 6 or 7 other protocol committees, don't we?
Yes, I only report on the meetings that have been held in the period under review for each progress reports. In this period, there was the meeting with the Gifted Reserves Committee. Okay, so we've had no other meetings from the other protocol committees? Not in this period. Okay, thank you. Next question relates to Rotorua translations provided for. Does this group provide translations into English from Māori? Sorry, which groups? I'm sorry. I'm on page 94. There's a list of translations that have been provided by my team. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yes, they do also translate into English. So, for example, you'll see there's reference to a letter to Te Kura o Te Koutu. Their response was provided in Te Reo Māori, and my team translated that as well. Okay, because I've been approached by a member of the public who observed the interaction between myself and Councillor Waru, where he spoke in Reo to one of the petitioners. I was unable to understand what he said, and so were the public. And I understand he asked for that to be translated into English. Where have we got to on that? I haven't seen their request. We don't have the resources to provide contemporaneous translation. That would require a qualified translator to sit in each meeting, and so there are people that do provide that service, and we simply don't have the level of resource to do that. I haven't seen any a request. I'm sorry. I can follow up after the meeting.
Councillor Lee,
thank you.
Can I ask the Chief Executive to answer for you?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Councillor Lee, thank you, Your Worship. So I'm aware of the request, and just to clarify, there was what I have asked the team to prioritise is official translations. So translations on council business is the priority and the focus of the team. The request we got was not council business. It was informal discussion at during the time when a petition was received. Because that wasn't part of official council business, it wasn't something that I instructed the team to translate directly. I believe they are providing informal translations as just to be helpful, but as it wasn't official council business, it isn't technically part of the scope of the team's translation functions. Okay, a follow-up question to that. This interaction took place right in the middle of a council meeting. I had asked some questions of the petitioner, and then Councillor Waru asked... Point of order, Madam Chair. So do Karakia. So my question is, how can that not be official council business? This was right in the middle of a council meeting.
Councillor, I think that has been answered for you. It was during a petition. I would like to focus on the progress report, but I have ensured that your views are heard on this. So if you wouldn't mind, we'll move on and take any questions specifically on what we're speaking to right now, which is the Te Aroha Partnership Progress Report.
Madam Chair, point of order. The standing orders...
Sorry, what's your point of order?
The point of order relates to the upholding of the standing orders. So under the standing orders, if a elected member wishes to speak in reo, he needs to give 2 days notice in advance.
Point of order, ridiculous.
I have...
Sorry, Councillor Lee, your point of order is not a point of order, but...
It is a point of order.
Ki te he au ki te koro Māori, ka koro Māori hei. I'll translate that for you.
Yeah.
If I want to speak my reo, I will. Kamutu.
Yeah,
Finish.
Councillor Lee, look, I think you know, you've communicated by email and now at this meeting as well. You hold a particular view on this, but it is an official language of this country, and Councillor Waru has every right to speak that language if he wishes to. At appropriate times, if councillors are in meeting and you wish to know what has been said, then you're welcome to also ask at that time. But as has been mentioned, if we were to get an official translator, and that would be very costly.
Also, Madam Chair, I'll just add to that, if you'd indulge me, that if there's anything that is council business, and I do speak Māori, I always say it in English as well. That had nothing to do with the council business. He mihi noa to my relations from Rotorua.
Thank you, thank you. And we do appreciate that often, yes, you do translate so that all can have understanding of it. So we will move on. If there are any other questions on the progress report. Councillor Maxwell.
Question time. Through you. Thank you, Gina. Can I ask that Leo Watson, who was the facilitator in the report, he's going but you feel happy and confident there's someone in our Te Aomarangi unit who's been working with you as well, can come here and be part of that presentation to us all?
During the transition, so my role is being recruited for at the moment, and during the transition phase for this particular project, both Una Hopkins and Andrew Moraes are involved to ensure that it continues to progress.
And I just want to close off on that by saying thank you to our council representatives who are on their working party and the members from Te Tātou for the mahi that they've done over that time. Kia ora.
Thank you. Are there any final questions?
Can you come back next week?
I will be observing on the Zoom.
Gina, just on behalf of Council, as this is your last meeting with us and your last report to us, we just want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts for the work and the progress that you have given us in your 7 years, I believe, at Rotorua Lakes Council. I know we've had a farewell for you already internally. There were a lot of tears. You will be much missed, but we know that you'll be much loved at your new role in Ministry for Environment. So we have just a very small, we thought you'd probably received a lot of flowers, so we'll give you one that will hopefully last forever for your new desk in your new office as a token of our appreciation.
Thank you. And if I can just express my own thanks both to the executive team, our staff sitting in the back, and also to the elected members as well. I've learned so much working at this organisation, and I'm really proud of the work that we've collectively done. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora, kia ora. You're a good, nice bouquet.
Thank you very much, everyone. So that concludes our public session. We now will have a resolution to move into public excluded. I'd like to advise there are 2 items for consideration in public excluded. Number 1, confidential minutes from the Council extraordinary meeting held on the 2nd of April, and also Mayor's attendance at NRL All-Stars 15-16 February 2024. The reason is to enable any local authority holding information to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations. We have a question from Councillor Patterson.
Thank you for your indulgence, Your Worship. I read through the report on the Indigenous versus Māori. I can't see anything there that's controversial or going to disadvantage anybody by our public not knowing what we're talking about.
Through Your Worship, so I might just say during the discussion it will become clear that the reasons for it and the basis that we've asked to move into confidence is one of the reasons is to not prejudice any commercial negotiations or discussions.
Thank you.
Point of order.
And I would like to note, point of order, yep.
Just before we move into confidential, I have been provided with a translation of the previous, of the comments allegedly made by Councillor Waru.
Point of order, we've moved on from that kaupapa.
Sorry, Councillor Lev.
There's been a misrepresentation.
Point of order, we've moved on from that kaupapa.
There is a misrepresentation.
Point of order, we've moved on from that kaupapa.
I think Councillor
Councillor
Waru,
Lee, I ask you to please stop now.
there's a misrepresentation that's been made, Madam Chair.
Apologies, that is not a correct point of order. Your
Excuse
point
me?
has been made and we've carried on.
I haven't made the point.
Okay. And in just response, sorry, if I can continue just to Councillor Patterson, I do note that the report and minutes will be released on the successful outcome of the investigations, and we'll leave it there. So it will be made public as soon as possible. So may I please have a mover and a seconder to move into confidential. That's moved by Councillor Wang, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. Just give a moment to make sure that the live stream has